In this video, I'm going to give a high-level overview of data visualization. I'm going to focus not on any practical aspects of how to create visualizations, but I'll think rather and talk about why data visualization is so important and some of its key principles, with some illustrations of good data visualizations and some poor visualizations that don't work so well. So without data visualization, you have a bunch of data, which is just a huge pile of numbers and words. There's nothing really behind them. A book that I highly recommend is Show Me the Numbers by Stephen Few, an internationally renowned expert on data visualization. And a lot of the principles that I'm going to go through here come directly from him. A great data visualization first and foremost tells a story. That is, there's a progression in the way it presents the data. And it should tell an interesting, insightful story. Interesting meaning that it addresses and it grabs and addresses the audience's interests. It considers the audience and it's insightful. It brings them new knowledge that they would not have had without the data visualization bringing it out. A key aspect of this is that a good or a great visualization is intuitive to understand accurately. Intuitive means that what the visualization looks like actually represents what is going on. And it's intuitive to understand accurately, meaning that what people intuitively think when they look at the visualization matches the reality. And so this is a key storytelling aspect of a data visualization. There's another very important aspect of a great visualization, and that is that it is honest. A great visualization tells the truth, which means that its intuitive interpretation is accurate. It is not misleading. So the counterbalance to this is really pointed out in a classic book by Darrell Huff, a journalist who analyzes a lot of data and the way people present data in his classic How to Lie with Statistics. And it's a provocatively named book. It comes from the perspective of being kind of like a book that tells people how to pick locks. Uh, and the idea is not actually, as the book suggests, to encourage people to tell lies with statistics, but it's kind of like a lock picker who shares the craft to the general public, is mainly informing people on the tricks that thieves use to pick their locks so that people can be better informed to protect themselves. And similarly, Darrell Huff shows the tricks of the trades of how people can twist and contort the truth by presenting numbers in a way that skews the truth in their favor with the intention of misleading. And so a great visualization does not apply these tricks. So business intelligence analysts and managers need to understand both so that when they look and consume visualizations, they can accurately understand what is correct, but also so that when they create visualizations, they do not intentionally or even accidentally mislead people with inaccurate information. So let's look at some examples. And the examples I'll show don't so much focus on not telling the truth, so it's not a matter of people intentionally misleading, but it's more on this first aspect of telling an interesting and insightful story in an intuitive way. So these examples all come from Stephen Few, and the citations are at the end of the slides. So here's a column chart, which, from what we can say, see shows quarter-to-date sales, the Americas, Asia, and Europe. It's pretty, kind of, but see, there's a lot of problems with this. For example, is this in euros? Is it in dollars? You don't know the unit. Which quarter to date? Are we at the beginning of the quarter? Are we at the end of the quarter? How does this compare with last year's sales? Is this good? Is this bad? Are we on budget? There's a lot of things that managers would want to know that this visualization does not tell. Sometimes a graph is not the best way to communicate information that we want. And in this case, a table would probably be much more informative. And so without going into all the details here, this table, we see things like the specific time period that is covered, the exact date of the report. We see the exact numbers for the regions. This graph gives approximate comparisons, but the table can give the exact numbers. You can have multiple columns that give the percentage of total sales, that give the comparison from the relative expectation from our budget, and other information that managers might be interested in. So the key lesson here is that a graph might not have all the information needed. A table might often be the right tool. Here's another example. This is a report from from various countries about their impression, people's impression of the United States. So, for example, here, Brazil, the percentage was somewhat or very unfavorable opinion of the US, 52%. Those with somewhat or very unfavorable opinion, 32%. Mexico, Britain, and so on. It gives various countries with their views on the US. And actually, this is an example from a real published visualization on this data. So Stephen Few points out things like it's hard to go through this table. It's hard to know exactly which countries are listed, find which country has the most favorable view or the most unfavorable view. These numbers, if you look closely, don't add to 100%. What's going on with the missing portions? So a suggestion is a graph like this, which is much easier to understand. On one hand, you don't have the exact numbers for the countries, but really what people are more interested in is generally seeing which countries have more favorable views and less favorable views. And this is very vivid, and you can see clearly here what middle undecided is. You can easily see here that Kenya and Poland have the most favorable views of the United States, whereas countries like Pakistan and Egypt have the least favorable views. You can see that there's a general reverse correlation, as you would have expected. Those have more favorable views, have less unfavorable, but it's not a strict sequence. So this visualization captures this data in about the same amount of space or less, well, actually less space, and is much more communicative.
Here's a very popular kind of graph, a pie chart, one of the most popular of all. And suppose we are company G, and what we're trying to answer is how do we compare to our competitors? Well, we can kind of see we're kind of in the middle, but okay, we're kind of close to company A, but are we doing better than them or not? Company D is, of course, much bigger. How does everything compare? Pie charts, you almost never can answer these kind of questions effectively. And so some people try to make them even prettier and place them in 3D. And this is even worse. You're even less able to tell the difference. Because like now, company C looks like it's pretty similar to us, where when it was flat, it was clearer that we're better. So that's an even worse adaptation of it. Here's a chart that's not that colorful. Looks a lot older technology in chart, but it's crystal clear. You just look at this, and even though it's so close, you can see that we are doing slightly better than company A. And here you can even add the percentages, so you see exactly how much each is. It's very easy to add that column on a bar chart. And so not quite as pretty, so not as colorful, but much more effective in communicating the questions that people have.
Here's one more example. So here we have lots of different products, and these are not real products, but we're interested in slicer dicer sales compared to other product sales. It's a great title, it makes it very clear, well labeled. But okay, want to compare slicer dicer sales compared to other products. Okay, well, this is a lot of information, and it's hard to actually do what the title says we're trying to do. This doesn't work well because first we have to find which are slicer dicer deals. We go through this table, through this legend, find slicer dicers. We have to find the exact color. And okay, so is this pale blue? And it's kind of in the middle there. And then which company or which products are higher, which are lower on average, which ones are higher, lower? This fails on so many levels. Because we're trying to convey a lot of information here, a much better solution would involve many graphs, which focus specifically on what we're looking at. So here, because we want to compare slicer dicers with each other product, we have a graph for each product explicitly compared to slicer dicers. And for example, here, slicer dicers versus round tuits, 100% bar is the sales of slicer dicers, and we have the monthly amounts. The months are here in the legend compared to slicer dicers, and we have a line that gives an average. And so you can clearly see if the average of one product is higher than the reference, which is slicer dicers, in each case or not. And you can see the specific amounts month by month, how they compare. And so this requires quite a bit of rethinking, but it effectively conveys information that managers need much better than others. So with these examples, hopefully you can appreciate now the importance of data visualization and really thinking about how you want to communicate information. Again, this is not a practical video telling you how to do data visualizations or how to create or modify them, but hopefully it has inspired you that this is really worth thinking about and learning about how best to tell the story that you're trying to communicate from the data in a way that's intuitive and accurate, that matches what your audience really needs.